Welcome to the unique world of doing dyslexia differently, where we unravel the many facets of dyslexia in small, digestible bites, challenge stereotypes, and create a brighter future for our children. We'll focus on fostering your child's mindset, confidence, and self-esteem so they can reach their full potential in and out of the classroom. Let's challenge the status quo, break down the barriers, and unravel the spectrum of possibilities. I'm your host, Bernadette Haig, and together we can do dyslexia differently. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome back to the Doing Dyslexia Differently podcast. I'm so happy to have you here. Today's episode, we're going to talk about the very critical topic of shame. I did a poll recently within the Daring Dyslexic community, and 90% of people said that their children or child were being impacted by feelings of shame. And for me, this is such an important topic and is so relevant. Shame really became the driver of so much of my school life. It's why I chose certain subjects, why I didn't choose others, why I wouldn't put my hand up or speak up and share my ideas, why I didn't speak with certain people, why I didn't want to go to school on certain days. And sadly, that shame of not being good enough or smart enough really started to infiltrate every aspect of my life. I chose jobs that I knew I could do. I was only interested in boys that didn't question or challenge me. And for such a long time, I wouldn't expand my friendship circle. People thought I was rude and cold, but what I really lacked was so much self-esteem and confidence. This deep sense of shame kept me small and scared, and it's still so true for many of our children today. They're experiencing shame even when they don't say out loud that they are, and it takes a toll on their overall well-being. These feelings of shame really start in those early years when they're struggling to read and write, and later that comes into other academic tasks. We're often made feel like we're not measuring up to grown-up expectations, that we're not meeting our parents' needs, maybe even our teachers' needs, that we're letting our peers down, and that we're becoming a burden. And that really doesn't feel good. Nobody wants to feel like that. We have an innate need to belong as human beings. So all of those things lead to this deep sense of inadequacy, embarrassment, and for so many, a withdrawal from learning and often social situations as well, which is definitely what happened for me. If you have listened to my recent interview with Raya, she spoke openly about shame and how much it's impacted her life and how it kept her from asking for help for her entire school journey. It's really horrendous to think that a young girl would struggle her way through 12 years of schooling because she wanted to always be deemed the good girl. We really need to be doing better for our kids. It's as simple as that. So as always, I want to offer some suggestions on how we can possibly do that. So first and foremost, I think it's critical to create a supportive and nurturing environment where our children feel safe to express their challenges and their fears without judgment, without a fear of being judged. They can put their hand up and say, I don't understand this, or I'm finding this really hard, or can you please explain that again, or I don't want to do this. I think we often, as adults, expect our children to be able to show up the way that we have or that we did or that we need them to, and that's just not the case. So really creating that supportive and nurturing environment is the first step, and that's both inside and outside the classroom. Encouraging open communication to talk about the challenges and the struggles and the feelings. And when they're talking about feelings, we're validating those. This goes such a long way in building someone's confidence when you say, I'm feeling frustrated, and that feeling is validated back to you. I can see why this would be frustrating for you, rather than, no, don't be frustrated. You can do this and go forth. It's really having that sense of being seen and understood. So I think validating feelings is really, really an important task for us as the grown-ups in this situation. The next is providing opportunities for your child to excel in areas that may be outside of the school realm, outside of academics. It could be art, it could be music, it could be sports, it could be something quite quirky. Typically, people with dyslexia have great imaginations. So whatever talent that they have or that they may come up with, let them use their strengths. Let them explore those strengths. Let them explore their interests. And you'll often hear most people with dyslexia that you speak to, once they find an interest or something that they're good at, they really thrive in that area. And once you can shift a child's focus from what's challenging them to an area they're thriving on, there's really no stopping them. So I really encourage particularly parents to find a way for your child to excel at something. And for those that are listening that are educators, it's really looking at the child or the children that are struggling in the classroom and trying to find a way for them to be able to shine in their own unique way within that peer group as well. Helping your child understand dyslexia and its impact on their learning. I think really emphasizing, obviously, it's not a reflection of their intelligence or their worth as a human being. That's a crucial step. But it's also you as the parent or educator or supporter really understanding the difference, knowing what the dyslexic difference is, how their brain is working, why some tasks such as reading, writing, spelling, maths are difficult, and being able to explain that in child-friendly language can really help put a positive and empowering light on what's happening for them. Nothing in life comes without contrast. You can't have a struggle without having a strength. And the unfortunate part for our children is that particularly in those primary years, there is such a huge spotlight on the challenging areas and very, very little on the areas of strengths. But every dyslexic brain comes with strengths. Please make sure that our children or your child understands that. They're advocating for appropriate accommodations and the support that they require in the school setting. So there's often conversation about individual learning plans and those sorts of things, obviously going through those processes. Depending on your school and the situation will depend on how heavy you have to advocate, and sometimes that can be super, super frustrating. So please make sure that you're reaching out to people that can help you with those processes. But also looking at things like assistive technology and making sure your child's getting extra time for assignments and exams, they're getting specialised instruction and support with their reading, that they're being taught to read based on the science of reading. They're using effective strategies within the school environment. It's very, very hard for any child, but for a child with dyslexia to be shown and given the tools to boost their confidence or self-esteem when they're not being taught with strategies that are going to work for that child. You can do all the work in the world on their mindset, but ultimately we have to shape their education to the way that their brain works. So this really, really obviously elevate and alleviate the challenges of shame when they're in an environment where things are working for them. I think specifically for teachers within the classroom, a really big hard no for me is not publicly sharing results. There's no winners and there's no losers. I think reading growth charts, having a sharks reading group and a tadpoles reading group. I mean, children are so perceptive. They know what these things mean. And if the grown-ups around them aren't offering those effective strategies and using affirming language when discussing the child's challenges, these really just create more of a spiral of self-doubt and those feelings of inadequacy. I honestly don't see any benefit, as I've said before, to publicly shaming a child for being at the bottom of the reading group. There is no good that comes of that. So if that is happening in your child's classroom, I would absolutely be having a conversation with their educator. And this obviously goes further into high schools as well when we're talking about reports and exams and things like that. So adapt that as needed. If you know that your child is already in a spiral of shame and really challenged in this area, I think sharing some self-compassion techniques can be really beneficial. And it's not always easy and there's no quick fix or silver bullet to this, but some of the strategies that I often share with parents in the community are really trying to help the child recognise their negative thought patterns and actively challenging them when that voice is telling them they can't do it, or they're not good enough, or they're not smart enough, turning up the volume on the voice that says, maybe I can. Questioning assumptions that aren't based on facts. Often children will jump in and just assume that they know what the outcome of something's going to be, or I know how that's going to pan out. They use the past to predict the future. So helping them question those assumptions is really helpful as well. Practicing mindfulness to really stay grounded in the present moment. And that can come in a variety of forms. It doesn't have to be meditation, but it can really, anything that really just brings your child back into the current moment and keeps them grounded is helpful. Developing some self-calming rituals that may soothe any anxiety that children often develop, particularly those that are experiencing shame. So that can be, it can be through touch, it can be through sound, it can be through breathing techniques, whatever works for your child. And self-affirming practices that whatever works for them that reinforces a positive self-perception. And as I said before, with the strengths piece, when they start to understand where their strengths are and what comes easily and what they're good at and what lights them up and brings them joy, they can then start to tap into those feelings and that positive self-perception there, and they'll take it into the other areas of their life. And that's why it is so, so very critical. I think just to close this out, shame for me is a really insidious feeling that can impact every aspect of our life. And you can be pretty assured that a child that feels shame at school will carry that into their adult life, into their career, into their relationships. So the earlier we can tap in and help them overcome those feelings and start to challenge the narratives that are being created in their mind about who they are and what it means, the better it is for their future and their future potential. We play such a powerful role in helping children with dyslexia navigate this world. So I hope this has been helpful in some way for you. And please, as always, if you have any questions or feedback, reach out. I would love to hear from you. Bye for now. Thanks for listening. I hope you were able to take something away from this episode that will help both you and your child. If so, please be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with new episodes, and jump over to daringdyslexic.com.au to join my free community, where each week I send you one practical action you can take to shift the dial on your child's confidence, self-esteem and mindset. It's 100% free and 100% actionable. That's all for now. I look forward to connecting again soon.